空で翼広げてるなんて他の候補に見つかるよ。さきちゃん、死にたいなら早く。
なぜ
だってルベルに一度は止められたのに、それでもまだ死にたいって言うなら仕方ないじゃない。候補選び失敗ね。
Platinum is a show that I initially had high hopes for, and I went as far as to review the first episode. That doesn't change, or that hasn't changed. Platinum is still something that I enjoy, and we have to talk about the fact that they're halfway through the season. I love the Angels up to this point. They've been one-note characters, if you will, with kind of generally self-serving purposes, and the person that they pick has, to this point, been a reflection of them. While Nase is definitely still my favorite character right now, Ravel is growing on me. I thought, honestly, that he was going to not be so good. Initially, he came off as manipulative and a little cocky, and while the cockiness, overconfidence is definitely still there, he's been proven to be really self-aware, so I definitely expect that to change and not last too much longer. Hajime, on the other hand, was extremely disappointing and underwhelming. A character who I was at least hoping would just be a thorn in Mirai's side, right? Like just somebody who every now and again would give him something to overcome or a setback to kind of test his might, if you will. That at least, and Metro Polyman's lackey at best, a Crunk to Yzma situation. Turned out to be another statistic and actually even brought something to my attention. Writers have thrown God candidates aside for simple points or for just like a base premise. The way that Shogo and Saburo were thrown aside just to show the flexibility of the God powers and to show how truly dark, or just to get a glimpse of how truly dark Metro Polyman's character could be, just feels really pointless. I'm thinking that'll change though, so fingers crossed.
食いついたのは自分だ。しかも妻や子供のためにと思って。それがこのざま。神候補が聞いて呆れる。自分は英雄になりたいわけじゃない。子供たちのために何もできなかった。何もしようとしなかったパパにはなりたくない。せっかく神候補になったんだ。自分は責任を持ってやれる限りのことはやる。
Mikado was an interesting story though. I think that we all know a solid character when we see one, and for me, Mikado fits that role perfectly. In fact, he's almost I don't want to call him the only adult, but definitely the father figure in the show, if you will. The way that he was pointing out Mirai's shortcomings and letting him know that the weakness that is present within him is not sustainable long term, and the fact that he used guns in a show with powers and wings just is really human and adult, right? Because he was thinking on his feet and actually thinking about things in like a full term, or grasping the full picture, if you will. He was the only non-hyperbolic character, in my opinion, for a while as well. When Mirai and Saki still at times show to be extreme versions of a couple of character traits, Mikado felt really human and down to earth. His want to end the God contest so that he could go back to his family. His understanding that he wouldn't be believed by his wife when he told her outright that I'm trying to stop the forces of evil from taking over the world. And the acceptance of his status and just understanding that he would not see the end of the God contest, but continuing to push on anyway, made him the most endearing character all the time. Mikado is the heart and soul of the show for 13 episodes and has the most to offer, second only to Saki.
実際は架橋くんに守ってもらうだけ、翼になってもらうだけの文字通りのお荷物。
ならいじめられる方がいい。
自分に言われてるとしか思えなくて。なのにこんな私がなんで生きてるんだろうって。だから私を殺して。
I can't lie, I really hated Saki to begin with. She felt like a waste of space, and her constant depressed attitude with no valid reasoning at all left her feeling very surface. She lacks not only depth, but meaning and a purpose. Useless is how she felt, and that's certainly how she portrayed herself. She felt like a background character. Right up until episode 8 though, because episode 8, all of that changed. She delivered with everything that I wanted from her all at once. She added on relatability and understanding, because the way that they were able to show the promise that she made and then show right after that when peer pressure was at its highest and the highest level of expectation was in front of her, even if Mirai didn't see it, she failed. Compounding with that, the fact that she assumed the last time she would see him alive was him jumping off the building, and she never truly got a chance to apologize, denying him at every step and not being the thing that not necessarily takes away his pain, but just doesn't add on to it. Not being that person that could have been there for him and made that difference. I think we've all felt that way, and the way that they were able to make that clear to me was beautiful.
ところで慣性の法則って知ってるか？
させ！
お前のように感情や勢いに任せて戦う奴らから死んでいくんだ。生き残るのは最後まで用意周到な奴だ。
If you've seen the show, you know what's coming, and you know that I had to save the worst for last. And I really do. I think that there's a conversation that needs to be had because they are the worst characters I have ever seen in anime. And you can blame it on the fact that I haven't seen enough. Maybe you have something better. You can write it in the comments below. But when I tell you Mirai is the worst hero I have ever experienced, not just in anime, but in media, I cannot put into words how many times he left me struck with a spell of confusion. The softest, most gentle character, and yet no one is allowing him to experience anything. No one is allowing him to harden himself. They're not allowing him to experience the growth that is necessary to be God, if you will. And the way that they wrote Metropoliman makes Mirai seem even worse than he actually is. The most trying to be pure evil, extreme, hyperbolic version of a comic book supervillain every single day of the week. That is Metropoliman. They have made for the worst pair of rivals I have ever seen. They're supposed to, and don't get me wrong, right? I understand what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to show the difference in extremes when it comes to control or power. Mirai being the god that doesn't kill, and Metropoliman being the god willing to use his power and his influence to bend the will of others and make the world in his image. And because neither side concedes points in any way, Metropoliman is just one-upping himself every single time that he can, thinking of the worst things that he can possibly do, and Mirai stands idly by, indecisive, and does nothing, to only then be comforted by Saki, and never has to understand the gravity or the weight of his decisions or lack thereof. This is actually something that I gave Platinum in credit for in my review of the first episode. With the way that the show is going, in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter if Metropoliman dies or not. If Mirai doesn't begin to make more conscious decisions, accept the consequences of those decisions, and come to realize that there will not be success without sacrifice, there's no hope for the show.
向井戸さんが撃った時一瞬奴がひるんだのにさ
できなかった。